Welcome, folks. Today I'm going to be doing a sealed league. Sealed is a very interesting format. You get 6 packs, you open all your packs, and try and make a constructed deck from the cards that you opened in your packs only. And then as you go through the league, uh, every 3 matches, you move on to the next stage, at which you can open a pack using your play points or an extra pack that you have, what whatever event tickets, whatever comes to mind. Um, when I started playing Magic, started with casual, moved on to Commander, and then recently have started doing drafts and sealed. And sealed has become definitely one of my favorite formats. I think it's very interesting, and I want to say flavor of each set really kind of shines in a sealed environment. And so we're going to be doing the deck building here. So we'll join the league. Feeling lucky. Let's hope we get something good. Okay. So I see a couple of foils. So Wolf, Devil's Breach, new card, Mythic. So we did get one Mythic. That's pretty good. A 5/5 for 5. Whenever you attack, you pay generic and red and discard a card, and then you deal damage to a creature equal to that card's converted mana cost. Pretty good late game beater, especially in sealed. I kind of dig that one. So for the rares, a Thalia's Lieutenant, a Silver Fur Partisan, Port Town, which is the land, blue-white, Flameblade Angel, 4/4 flyer for 6. But whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, you may have Flameblade Angel deal 1 damage to that source's controller. Outside of limited, not sure how great this card is, but within limited, is a pretty good late game. So it looks like we got some good red late games. Drownyard Temple, another rare, and Confirmed Suspicions, which I've been hit pretty hard with a Confirmed Suspicions, but it's definitely not something super exciting. So usually what I do in sealed, I'll go through each color, look at the things I want, the things I don't want, and the things I might want, and kind of sort them out. So here, a Reaper of Flight, Moonsilver, 3/3 flyer for 5, that you can sack a creature, give it +2/+1. This one's really good in a white weenie deck. It's really good in a white weenie deck. Pretty good elsewhere. Definitely a playable. Humble the Brute. Pretty playable. Not great, but not terrible. Tenacity. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gave lifelink and untap those creatures. This one's pretty good in a 1/of, even if you have white. Silver Strike is really good for removal. Gotta love Inquisitor's Ox. Just a big butt, gets in the way, and then eventually gets Vigilance when you get Delirium. Militant Inquisitor, not really gonna worry about that. Cathar's Companion and Vessel are definites. Thalia's Lieutenant, it's a maybe. If we get enough humans, it might be worth it. Puncturing Light, for sure. Moreland Drifter is really good. Thraben Inspector. Strength of Arms, it's usually a maybe, but I'm going to put it in with Militant Inquisitor. I don't think we're, quick look through our artifacts, not running equipment really, and Stern Constable isn't really all that good. So from here, we can see that we have a fairly strong white pool and nothing too crazy here. So then blue, just the wind, which is pretty good. Catalog, draw 2 cards and discard a card. This one's kind of a maybe. Rise from the Tides. This one's really good in a mostly blue or blue-black deck where you are just playing spell after spell, just controlling. Confirmed Suspicions. It's a maybe. If we end up with the Rise from the Tides plan, it's really good. Stormrider Spirit is a maybe. 330 Flying Flash for 5. Can definitely get people, but it's nothing to write home about. Stick Swing Scab is actually pretty good, but again, it's kind of dependent. Sleep Paralysis is a definite. Silent Observer. A 1/5 flyer for 4 blocks everything on the ground, blocks things in the air. It's just really good for defense. Pieces of the Puzzle, again for the Rise from the Tides, Confirmed Suspicions. Niblis of Dusk, and Deny Existence can come in handy. So there's really no bad blue cards that we got. They're mostly playable. But I'm not too excited about blue. We'll see. Here, Hound of the Farbogs. So let me put those. So Hound of the Farbogs, not bad. It's probably a maybe. Biting Rain, good sideboard card, but not too worried about it. Stromkirk Mentor. I've yet to really see that guy do anything relevant. A 4/2 for 4. Doesn't seem bad, but it doesn't do enough, I don't think. Rotten Heart Ghoul. Those are pretty good. A 2/4 can be kind of hard to attack through, and then the discarding a card isn't always bad for your opponent, but isn't always great. Vampire Noble, solid, 3/2 for 3, but it doesn't do anything else, which isn't all that exciting. Merciless Resolve, again a maybe. Kindly Stranger is a definite. Kindly Stranger has Delirium, and you can pay 3 and transform it, and when you transform it, you destroy target creature, and it becomes a 4/3. It's essentially a murder on a stick, which is pretty good. Behind the Scenes, I don't think has a home in a lot of decks, unless you're black-red aggro, and we're definitely not that. Alms of the Vein, not really. Rancid Rats would be a definite. Macabre Waltz, one of, wouldn't be bad. Sanitarian Skeleton. There's been a lot of debate about this guy. I like him. Just, it has to be in the right kind of deck. If it's just as a blocker, nothing really crazy. A recoverable blocker isn't bad, but it's nothing to write home about. And then Indulgent Aristocrat, kind of a maybe. So black's kind of weak. So we're probably not going to go with black in this case. Red, which was our money for the rares. Definitely Flameblade Angel. Flameblade is a good late game beater, late game run. Reduced to Ashes, pretty good. Having a lot of those, not too crazy about. So I think we only really want run one, just because it's a large mana investment. But Gatstaff, Arsonist, probably one of the best beaters in the format. Spending 5 mana for a 5/4. Spending 5 mana isn't always what you want to be doing, but in the later game, when we're really just looking for big bodies to get past our opponent's removal, that's pretty much what we want. Having 2 Gatstaff Arsonists, a Wolf, and a Flame Blade means that we're pretty much set up in the later game to dominate the board. Pyrehound isn't bad, but you really have to run enough instants or sorceries. Really just a few. They're worth it anyway, but if you're running a few instant sorceries, it makes it much more worth it. Dance with the Devils is interesting if you're running only instants and sorceries, but if you're not, there's just a lot of better things we can do with 4 mana. Ulrich's Kindred, 3/2, trample for 3, and can grant a indestructible. Really good in a werewolf deck. Don't know if we'll end up getting there. We do have a wolf. Well, we'll put it in maybe. Halpak Wolf, also a maybe. If we end up going with more of the wolf, werewolf kind of thing, we'll probably want it. Blood Mad Vampire, good in a madness build, very aggressive, not great here. Vessel of Volatility, can be pretty good. It might be worth including if we're worried about Delirium, and then if we really want to ramp up to these big fatties early. I think we have enough of them that we actually may want to play it. 1 copy. Tormenting Voice, again, pretty good in the madness. Mediocre here. Ravenous Bloodseeker, good in madness, not really good here. Kisig Forge Master, this guy is just solid. Whenever he blocks or becomes blocked, he deals 1 damage to that creature, which means he can trade up for a 3 toughness creature. And then when he transforms, he deals 2 damage, which means he can trade up for a 5 toughness creature. Or he can just immediately block and kill anything that's coming at it. So it just makes things very difficult for our opponent to kind of block those things. And then 2 dual shots, deals 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. Good situationally. I've seen 1 or 2 run in a main board. Typically, it's not exactly what you want to be doing. I'd rather sideboard it because there's other things I could be doing. But maybe worth if we can't get quite enough. So here, I think red is just really dominant, and we definitely want to run red. Probably go down these Pyre Hounds for now. They're hounds and not wolves, which means that for our Halpak Wolf and our Ulrich's Kindred and our others, there's just not as much synergy. We may end up running one of them. We'll have to see. And then lastly is green. Watcher in the Web. I'll put those there. So Watcher in the Web, 2/5 reach, can block an additional 7 creatures each combat. This is one of those that I will run as much as I can, just because it's so good. Being able to block 7 creatures makes swinging in to your opponents a much better prospect, and when you can, and then dealing with flyers, which a lot of these decks may have trouble with, having there, really good. Definitely want that one. Cult of the Waxing Moon, 5/4 for 5. Whenever a permanent you control transforms into a non-human creature, put a 2/2 green wolf creature onto the battlefield. Definitely want that. Solitary Hunter, 3/4 for 4, transforms into a vanilla 5/6, which is nothing shabby. Might be on reason. Forward, but 2 counters is bad, and Delirium putting 3 counters isn't great. So, just not excited about that. Intrepid Provisioner, really good, especially in a human deck. But here, just looking through, I think we have better options. Equestrian Skill, again, good in the human deck. And it's foily, which is nice. Silver Fur Partisan. It looks like we have enough wolves and werewolves. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wolves or werewolves, and he makes 8, so that's a definite run. Root Out, good sideboard card. Grafmole, whenever you sack a clue, you gain 3 life. We're not really running any clue generators, and so this isn't as good. But a 2/4 for 3 isn't terrible. A Gloom Widow, 3/3 for 3 that can only block creatures with flying, which if we're aggressive, the 3/3 for 3 body is pretty good. If we're defensive, leaving that back to block some flyers is really good. Rabbit Bite, removal, for sure we want that. Quilled Wolf, another wolf to kind of go along with our sub-theme. Gets +4/+4 until end of turn, which is pretty good in the late game. We would want that one. Obsessive Skinner, Human Rogue. You put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and then at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, there are 4 more card types. You keep putting counters on creatures. If you can enable Delirium really easily, he's really good. And even if not, being able to kind of upgrade one of our creatures to maybe get through damage is pretty solid, I think, in a more aggressive deck like this. Mulgrass Scavenger, really good in a Delirium-based deck. Just a 3/4 for 2 is really solid here, and it blocks really well. Here, I don't know if we really want to run it. It's a maybe. And a Groundskeeper, kind of go for the long game. That one's a maybe as well. I don't think we run it here, actually. Human Druid, nothing too crazy. We're not really discarding or throwing things into our graveyard as much. We're really just kind of playing it out and hoping to drop bombs eventually. And then lastly, the artifacts. Epitaph Golem, not really anything great. Put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. Can help you kind of cycle through stuff. If you're throwing a lot of things with Delirium into your graveyard, you run the risk of running out. And he just kind of helps prevent that. But a 3/5 for 5 comes up the board a little bit. I'm just not crazy about him. I haven't seen a lot of people run him, and I think there's a good reason why. Thraben Gargoyle, I actually really like. A 2/2 for 1 with Defender. Even though we're being aggressive, having an early play, I think with a lot of our bigger drops, is probably important. And then later on, when we get up to enough mana, that we can really start playing some of these bigger drops. If they're just killing them left and right, we can make this into a flyer and turn from regular kind of on the ground aggro to flying aggro. Shards, an equipment, 1/0. Whenever a creature attacks, you can put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Not really exciting, even if you have stuff that lets you um, that cares about equipment or cares about delirium. And then explosive apparatus is just a nice little removal, which we would definitely want to run, uh, just because we're kind of lacking on removal from what it looks like. So probably don't want to run these. And I imagine we don't want to run the mold graft, and we'll want to side the root out. And then you don't really want to run 3 colors unless you have a fair amount of fixing, which we have absolutely no fixing aside from maybe Groundskeeper, but we have no way to get things into our graveyard. So probably don't want to run white. So as it stands, our definite cards we have a few low drops, mostly waiting for the bigger game. Here we have our 2 reduced to ashes. 7 5 drops and a 6 drop. So probably not bad, although I imagine we'll kind of bump into a fair amount of games where their early aggression can kind of bring us down. And we have a couple of removals, a little bit of ramp to maybe help us get up there. We're at 20, so typically with a sealed, since it's a 40 card deck, we probably want to run 23 cards and then 17 lands. We may want to include a Pyrohound. We really don't have anything that makes it worth it, though. A couple of reduced ashes, rabid bite. That's about it. So the highest it could get would be a 5/6, which isn't anything to scoff at, but that would be very unlikely. A dance. I haven't actually ever run this card. I know I said it was bad. It is kind of bad, but we need lower drops, and this could kind of serve as a way to maybe take care of some things, kind of surprise them, hold up at that 4 mana right before we drop a bomb on them with 5 mana. So I think we include that. Probably this Graft Mole just for the 2/4 body, just so we're not left with nothing until turn 5, which would be the worst. And then I guess this Wolf. Maybe we do want something to discard. Maybe we do want Groundskeeper. Well, we're not really going to be discarding lands to that. That would be... No. That'd be the opposite of what we'd want to do. But maybe we include the Blood Mad just as an early blocker. Just for 3 mana, play it as a 4/1, and then kill something. They may be able to get in with their 1/1s, but hopefully we'll have something to do eventually, which will kind of punish them for that. If we can eventually get to 6 mana and drop a Flame Blade, their 1/1s become really bad, because every time they deal damage to us, they also take a damage. So dealing us damage could be good for them, but if we have been dealing enough damage, we kind of hit them back, which is a little bit better. So here we have our root out and dual shot. Um, as kind of our main sideboard cards that we may bring in, just depending on who we face. And then we have to add the lands. 10-7 seems fine. We don't have too much green. And we've got a couple of later drops that need the red. I suppose by the time we get there, we'll probably have 2 red. So we probably want to go down 1 mountain. And go 9-8. No, I think I had it right. I think we had a mountain here. Go 10-7. And that should be fine. So now we've got our sealed deck. And so I will see you guys for the first game.